just should not be tolerated. I think we're going to bring in John here now. We do have John Thomas. He's from Nest Point, Managing Director, Republican Political Strategist at Nest Point. Welcome, John. Glad you could join us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I guess this next question will go to you then. President Trump, we also was in Texas yesterday to offer his assistance to those affected by the deadly flooding that killed over 120 people. Let's take a listen to the president with Governor Greg Abbott, and then we'll come to you, John, for your comments and thoughts.
When the request was made for the emergency funds, Christy, I think we gave it within about 2 minutes, maybe less, and they had everything they needed, right, immediately. So we've deployed over 400 first responders and assisted or enabled more than 1,500 rescues.
Immediately, when I made a request for a disaster declaration, you and your administration granted that. This is the fastest that I'm aware of any administration responding so swiftly, so collaboratively, so coordinated as we have in response to this.
John, we have volunteers, we have state, local, federal, but your comments in terms of what we've just heard.
Well, look, I think it's important, of course, to see the level of collaboration between the federal government and the state government. That's nice. That's really, really good. But it's also important, I think, that the president so quickly took time to come and inspect the damage, and not just from a helicopter, but actually walking the damage. The president met with so many of the families that were impacted by this tragedy. And I think that's really important to make sure that the federal response was important, because we've seen in the past where presidents don't visit these sites, or they send simply their cabinet secretaries or their heads of FEMA or whatnot. You can tell the tone of President Trump, was not his usual tone of the showman. He was affected by what he saw.
Sure.
And you can tell that he really cared about it. And Governor Abbott echoed that the response to the government was good, actually was excellent. And that's in part because President Trump cares and deployed every single resource that's necessary to help.
No, absolutely. And he waited a few days before going down just to make sure everything was up and running and started. He didn't want the news to be focused on him. Yeah. It's about those who are suffering right now. So we have Democrats that are really, they just don't seem to have any winning strategies, and their base is starting to notice that as well. There is a new poll conducted by a Democrat super PAC that shows many Democrat voters view the party as out of touch, woke, or weak. So, Wendy, where is this party heading? Nowhere fast.
Woke and weak. Okay, that is not the way you want your constituents and party members to be describing your leadership. And I have to say, they are all recognizing in retrospect that was part of the fall behind why they didn't win the election. But what I think is they're slow on the uptake now, and they would be the first to admit this, is they have to get it together in time for the midterms. And that has been slow going. And one of the things I think they're recognizing is when you look at, what did we just talk about? Response to disaster. How long did it take their leaders to get down to the border during the Biden administration? That was one of the main criticisms. Not so with President Trump. And they're looking and learning and regrouping behind the scenes. But let's see if they can change that party description in time to the next election when it's going to matter.
Well, Gerard, I don't know. We can talk about them changing descriptions and going a different direction from that humiliating loss in 2024. But the reality is, when you listen to what these Democrats are saying and their future leaders, it's actually pretty scary. Let's take a listen to DNC Chair Ken Martin. He was asked about that New York City mayoral candidate, Zohran Mamdani. After we come back from listening, I want to get your reaction to it.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview?
There's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition.
So, Gerard, this guy is a self-professed socialist who says he's going to lock up, Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's also, has been a supporter of the Intifada. Why is it that the DNC chair won't denounce this guy or at least criticize him at all?
Because they're afraid. Look at what globalized intifada is, a call for violence against Jews. That's what that is. And when you have someone not denouncing it and running circles in their language to try to avoid criticizing a person who speaks it, that's a sign of weakness. That's the sign that they're afraid of the woke faction of the Democratic Party. They're seeing Mamdani leading in New York City by a wide margin. He got more votes in the primary than anyone else in the history of New York City mayoral elections for the Democratic Party. And yet they're afraid because they think this is what the future of the party is. So you see people who should know better that are not taking control of the Democratic Party and are letting it go more and more to the left.
So, I mean, John, what are your thoughts on it? It seems to me the Democrats would have learned their lesson, but if they're promoting somebody like Mamdani, it sounds like to me they're doubling down on this woke ideology and moving further to the left, if that's even possible.
Yeah, I slightly disagree with your last guest on this. I don't think it's so much that they don't have the courage to disagree. I think the scary part is they agree with this guy, with this radical's policies. This is the extreme leftward shift we have seen from the Democratic base for years now. They are not just socialists. Some have communistic tendencies. Their policies are so far extreme left that the intensity of the base is rewarding this New York City candidate. That's what's so scary. It's not just an anomaly in New York. We're seeing it with AOC. We're seeing it with Gavin Newsom. I mean, pick your poison. This is the Democratic Party. And look, as a Republican strategist, as scary as it is, it's good for us in a way because we will dominate the Democrats in the midterms and we will retain power with the next presidential cycle because this extreme wokeism and leftism is just not sellable to everyday Americans.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's scary and dangerous, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So John Thomas, Wendy Patrick, and Gerard Ferletti, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.